are back with Brunch, a taste of Tobago. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for staying with us. Thank you to my sister Jewel, a wonderful book club segment, Reginald P. Dumas. Oh my gosh, he's like a catalyst of so much information. And that's just a stint, that's just a little piece of what you get on Brunch mid-morning show. So we want to thank you so much for staying with us. And it's amazing that all of these factors come together. We gel so lovely in this space. We are talking now on fire prevention. We're talking about the do's and the don'ts. And I want to welcome to our show Jude Rogers and Officer Rogers, Fire Prevention Officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services. Officer Rogers, thank you so much for joining us on Brunch. Now, I know there's so many questions that people have been asking. It's like a buzz with regards to bushfires. So we're just going to delve in as much as possible and answer as many questions as we can. So, good morning to you and welcome to Brunch, a taste of Tobago.
Thank you so much, Janelle. It's a pleasure to be here with you all on the Tobago updates. And what we've been seeing, what we've been noticing is that we have going through the Caribbean and across the globe a serious hot spell that has been affecting the entire weather patterns as that we're accustomed to. And so that has led us to the point where we're noticing the increase in bushfires, even within what is considered to be the rainy season. So let me just first say that there are no restrictions on setting fires in the form of having to have a permit during this period, as the bushfire season starts in earnest from the December 1 and runs all the way to June the 30th of 2024. So we're in the rainy season, however, we're getting the hot spells. So some of the do's and don'ts. First of all, let's identify who's really at risk. So we're saying that young children, babies, the elderly, and even your pets are at risk during the dry season because of the effects of hot spells. And what we're recommending is that you do need to be hydrated. You do need to hydrate. You do need to make sure that your home, your buildings, where you stay is ventilated. We also have the issue of bushfires affecting your homes and possibly even your garden, your vegetation, etc., etc. So some of the do's would be to definitely apply all of the bushfire season recommendations, which will be to cut a fire trace around your property of approximately 3 to 5 feet. That's around the perimeter of your property. Keep that vegetation very low so that you would not have the risk of, in the event of a start of a bushfire, of that bushfire affecting your home. We're also saying that you should pay attention to ensuring that you have some sort of adequate water, whether it's a temporary supply, whether in the form of a storage tank, a barrel, so that if in fact fire should affect your land, your property, your building, you would have something with which to at least begin to affect some sort of fire extinguishment of that blaze or that fire which can ensue. We're asking persons to clean their guttering, make sure you have no vegetation or leaves that is accumulating in your guttering, and definitely any sort of vines or any sort of vegetation that can attach to your guttering, your roof, your walls, make sure and remove those. So I hope these are some of the initial tips that persons will be very keen on having applied during this hot spell period, Janelle.
Yeah, and you've touched on so much. Oh my gosh, in that little space of time. But as we're talking housing, we are talking about residential areas. What about our
Yes.
roofing? How do we safeguard with regards to our roofing?
Oh, that's a very good question. And you would know that houses that are made of wooden structures or may have wooden members in the form of your roofing members are wooden, you are more susceptible than those that are made of metal or another material that is not non-combustible. So definitely, again, we want to reiterate the fact that you should be protecting your building from coming into contact with vegetation. You see, the real risk during any dry or hot spell is combustible vegetation making its way, and a fire starting at that point and making its way to the ceiling or to your roof. And that would be your external eave. So you want to have that clearance of high or tall bushes, shrubberies, even the trees, because we do have situations where the trees, if they were to catch a fire and they're in close proximity to a wooden rafters or wooden roof, you can have your building being in contact with such and coming into a fire. So we want to avoid those type of situations by doing a bit of housekeeping around our properties.
Yes, definitely. And what about hazardous liquids? We're talking like flammable liquids, petrol, those um, things that we have around our houses that can pose as fire threats. Let's touch a bit on that. Flammable liquids, petrol, diesel fuel, other hazardous chemicals. I think we need to reiterate the importance of managing these substances well. Let's touch there.
Well, well, definitely, Janelle. So the point about that is that housekeeping, that's a word that we use in health and safety and then also in fire safety, which alludes to everything being in its rightful place. So we want persons to put your flammable liquids. We're going to use flammable liquids in our day-to-day life. We may need it for the waka, for different machinery that we may have, gasoline, diesel, and also kerosene. But the fact of the matter is, those items should be stored in approved containers, and those approved containers should also be stored in a fireproof cabinet. And when I say fireproof, I mean a metal cabinet separate and apart from all your other storage. So you don't want to store flammable liquids alongside your wood, paper, plastics, cardboard boxes, etc., or even items of clothing. You definitely want to separate the two so that you don't have them causing a fire to increase in its intensity if it were to occur. And those things should be under some form of lock and key so that you can't have persons who may want to damage to your property. Even if they were to come into your property, we don't want them to easily access such so that they can actually, because arson is also a real possibility once somebody has a flammable liquid in their possession.
And, our neighbors need to be just as sensitized as we are,
Yes.
because once your neighbor's problem can become yours, and the sensitization and the education that is needed is something that we need to pay attention to. I think so many of us do not pay close attention. We would hear the warnings, we would see the ads, we would go to the consultations, but do we actually pay attention to to the service that is being meted out to us?
So that's a very good point that you're making there. You know that crime is our number one priority in our country. It's affecting everyone. But fire and the effects of fire has a very, very serious and even a global and even an environmental impact that it can have as well. So you would have seen in other countries what wildfires can do to, let's say, an entire village, just recently in Hawaii, there was a serious fire that would have gotten 80% of a particular island. And those fires start very small. So when we look at fires in general, we realize that even in what we call in the fire service an indiscriminate burning, a rubbish heap fire, is something that your neighbor or you yourself need to manage within your boundaries and not allow it to affect others in your community. Because if that fire were to get away from your property and venture onto another adjoining property, the possibilities is that it can have a ripple effect throughout your neighborhood and community. So we are our neighbor's keeper. We should look at fire not from an individual standpoint, but from a community-based standpoint, where each person in the community join in ensuring that their community is fire risk safe by removing unwanted vegetation from the borders of your property, from even the roadway and your property boundary lines. And so we can separate forests or forest reserve from habitable areas and habitable
Mm-hmm.
zones. thus creating an exclusion zone and protecting the natural welfare of our wildlife as well as our habitations.
Let's talk a bit really quickly about the statutory law. A fire permit is needed, during the bushfire season. But
That's
let's
correct.
touch a little bit more on that before we wrap. Our viewers would like to have some information regarding that.
Okay, so definitely, I would remind our viewers that the bushfire season starts legally under the Agriculture Fires Act from the 1st of December of this particular year, 2023, and runs all the way to June 30th of 2024. During that period, persons who intend to set fires outdoors, even if you're going to set what's considered to be a campfire or even a fire for cooking outdoors, those types of fires must receive a permit from the fire service of your district. The permit costs only $10, and the fire inspectors would give you, or the fire guardians would give you precautions that you must adhere to. They will give you a specific period within which you can burn your material, and also some fire prevention tips that will go along with your specific situation. So people use fire for land clearing, they use fires for recreational, for camps, for many different purposes. Fire is good when used in the right mechanism and the right way, but it can be dangerous if used in a improper manner.
Away.
So we want to have
Yes.
it done in a controlled environment under the guidance of the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service. I would
Yes.
remind persons we are in a hot spell, so please apply the bushfire season restrictions just as though we were in the bushfire season because of the effects of fires at this hot spell time in Trinidad and Tobago.
And we hear the term fire guardian. Just for viewers, who is a fire guardian and what role does he or she play during the fire season?
So that's a very good question. The fire guardians are employed as sort of like an auxiliary arm of the fire service whose focus is on one, conducting periodical visits to areas of interest, also presenting themselves as inspectors to visit properties that may require the permit, to verify the conditions and to conduct a fire risk assessment of the area, and then bring that information back to the fire office where we can now prescribe on the permit what are the precautionary measures necessary. Those persons are employed for a 6 month period and they would act as or fire guardians throughout the region or the counties that they are assigned to. So fire guardians are normally assigned to specific fire regions. For instance, you may have one in the Scarborough district, and then you may have in the Roxborough where you have major fire stations, and they would facilitate you. You need to visit the fire office between the hours of 8 to 4, Monday to Friday, and you can engage the fire officers to understand what are the legal ways in which you can utilize fires with a permit in your particular jurisdiction.
And we have touched on so many topics. You see what I was saying? We touched on so many aspects of fire prevention, the do's and the don'ts in such a short space of time. Unfortunately, we are wrapping. I would have loved to have more of this wonderful discussion with you. Hopefully, we have you back and we can go even further in depth about the do's and don'ts of fire prevention. Thank you so much, Officer Rogers, for giving us your time. I know you're super busy, and we've been trying to get you on this show for a while, so you finally came. And we just want to thank you from our family to yours. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for being one of those persons who is empowering and helping and not just doing your job. And we thank you so much. Blessings to you, peace, love, and light. All right. So we just want to thank you once again. And guys, that's it for me. That's it for brunch. Thank you so much for viewing. Thank you so much for being a part of this wonderful, wonderful program. I just want to thank my technical crew, guys. Thank you for your professionalism, and thank you for your patience, and thank you for just making it such a fun day. It's actually very fun doing this show every time we're on. So I just want to thank you once again. Also, before I leave you, our trivia question, let me just revisit that really quickly. The largest brain coral in the Western Hemisphere is located in what reef in Tobago? No one got it, but you know what? I'm going to keep this question. I'm going to keep it. There's a lovely prize for you. Breakfast for two. Breakfast. Notice the T. I left out the T just before. Breakfast for two at the Magdalena Grand Beach and Golf Resort, Lowlands, Tobago. Yes. So I'm anxiously awaiting the correct answers. You guys, this is a wonderful prize. The Magdalena Grand Resort is the place to be. So come on, get to typing and let me see those answers. But for now, I am your host, J Soul. Thank you so much for viewing, and we will see you next time on Brunch, A Taste of Tobago. From our family to yours, we wish you peace, love, and light, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. See you guys next time on Brunch.